has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michelle Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 284. Stop the Press. Athena Kugblenu on veganism, humor, and the media. Hi, my Veg Your Besties. I don't know if you can hear the difference in tone today. I am actually in Paris on a very, very short trip to Paris, and I'm in a vegan hotel in Paris. Did you even know? Did you even know? The Hoy Hotel, H-O-Y, House of Yoga, it stands for. But the Hoy Hotel in the 9th arrondissement, which is one of my favorite parts of Paris. And it's a vegan hotel. And I'm in a top floor, and I have a skylight, and the rain is pelting down. So you may be able to hear that. Now, I'm sure you know that I record these episodes in advance, especially those with guests. And it seems that just in the few days between my conversation with Athena Kugblenu and me recording this introduction right now, the news has not been a laughing matter. It's been filled with heartbreak and actual horror. And it seems these days we all have to walk a strange line between life and business as usual and standing up for our fellow human beings, demanding due process, civil rights, and accountability from our government. It's a very strange line to be walking. But here we are with episode 284 and my guest, comedian, author, podcaster, and commentator, Athena Kugblenu. She has an amazing ability, I think you're going to hear it, to find the absurdity and humor in real life. And while we're laughing, she's able to get us thinking, even about uncomfortable issues. And there are no end of those right now. I originally got to know Athena's work as a frequent guest commentating on articles in the British newspapers on a very fun but sadly no longer running podcast called Papercuts. You can listen to some of the back episodes still, but they are always talking about media, daily media, what's in the news that very day or week. So anyway, at one point on that podcast, I heard Athena mentioning she was vegan, and I made a mental note, as one does. And today she's here. It's a great conversation, so I won't make you wait for it, and I'll catch you on the other side. Athena Kugblenu, welcome to Veg Your Best.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to have this conversation.
Well, it is a delight for me. It's serendipity. You know, I'm going to have talked about this on the intro, but you were on a podcast I listened to almost every day, whatever it was on a couple years ago. I think it only ended about a year ago, right?
About a year ago. Yeah, last year we did the last one.
Yeah. And that was called Papercuts. And it was so much fun as a distraction, as an American citizen, as a distraction from American politics. I got to listen to all the things going wrong in the UK, but with a humorous bent. So that was Papercuts, and you guys would a bunch of you of different voices that would put a spin on the papers.
Yeah, basically, it was a great show, but we'd have to record it in the mornings, which is never a good thing. But I'm so glad that you learned that our country is circling the drain as much as the UK. We're all just the whole world is just circling the drain down the drain pipe. It's a universal connected experience we're having right now.
So we should
So
enjoy that, right? The kumbaya moment.
let's hold hands and just hold our breaths and just see what comes out the other side of the drain. Who knows? It might be better. It might be better.
It's hard to know. It's hard to know. So it's one of those in the vegan world, in vegetarian world, maybe it's true like this in different ethnicities. You are listening to someone and your ears perk up. You're like, what? What? You're vegan? So I heard you say it somewhere along the line on the podcast, and it was like, note to self, love her, love her. So tell me about that. I can't remember. I wish I was trying to. There's a lot of back episodes, so I could not find the episode that you mentioned it.
Yeah, hopefully it would have been relevant. I'm not like a vegan that slips it into every sentence, but ever we are contractually obliged to mention it. Like you have to say it. It's like a kind of a siren, or you got to just every hour on the hour you say you're vegan, or you got to say it regularly, right? You got to announce it.
It's
So
important for the
yeah,
rest of us.
exactly. You don't want to you don't want to miss an opportunity to tell someone you're vegan, right? And we are like Power Rangers, so you would have, even if I never said it, you would have connected. You'd be like, that's a vegan accent there.
Ultimately.
So yeah, but yeah, like I've only been vegan for about, I think this was my fourth year of veganism. I was a pescatarian before that, so I only ate fish like a dolphin or whale, shall we say. And my partner wanted to be vegan, bizarrely enough. And he at that point he was eating chicken and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, don't judge me, people. I'd like to believe I'm a progressive, advanced, blah, 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 feminist household, but I actually do most of the cooking in the house. And I was like, well, if you're going to be vegan, I've already got two kids and we're making different dinners for them, right? Because they're little or whatever. So I'm like, I'll just be vegan too. And I'd always thought about it, but I was just kind of lazy. And it just sort of worked. And I really felt like I didn't miss meat or dairy at all, and I just never. It was as simple as that. It was like, we'll just be vegan. It was like a switch, and it worked. But we can go into why it worked, because I think about why it worked, and I think I've cracked it,
Oh,
Michelle. I've
good.
cracked it.
Well, then you
Yeah.
you have to crack it for the rest of us because so many of us, a lot of people who listen are very they're warm to the idea. They love the idea, but they're like, I don't know if I can actually do it. So tell me, how
Okay.
did you crack
Okay.
it?
Bit of context. So, born and raised in the UK, but I have Ghanaian, Indian, and Caribbean heritage. Okay, so really important part of it. So that is something you probably can't change if you don't have it. That's like you can't. Sorry, I wish you could. I wish there was a pill you could say, "Oh my God, I'm a Ghanaian." Wouldn't that be great? Sorry, can't do it. So that's one thing. Other thing is, and like I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I'm not bad in the kitchen. I've cooked all my life. I'm one of those kids that, when I got home from school, I'd be like cutting things on the counter, and the counter's above my head, right? Because I was always expected to cook at home. So two things. And when I say cook, I mean there's a term Gen Z have. They call them ingredients household. Have you heard that before? Yeah. So this is like my whole life ingredients household. If you come in to my cupboard, you'll see rice, grains, oil, very, very rarely processed stuff. Just this is like from the 90s. I was doing this from the 90s, right? This is not a modern thing. People are copying me here with this whole non-wellness crap. This was me, right? So anyway, first thing, cooking from scratch makes it easy to be a vegan, right? Because you just substitute really easily if you're used to. So if you're making like a curry and you used to put chicken in your curry, you take out the chicken and you put chickpeas in your curry, right? It doesn't really get much more complicated than that. If you like to make like pasta sauces, for example, you just take out the mincemeat and you can put like red beans work great, like kidney beans work great, for example, or like pine nuts, or you can soy substitutes are like quite good. They're single ingredient and they're not too like processed. So again, like really easy. If you're used to like buying like processed food, or not even sometimes you get like packets to help you cook, so you'll be cooking but it'll be like a packet of sauce. So like, that's really hard to substitute a meat version for a vegan version for a meat version of that. You don't get a lot of instant vegan food unless it's like instant noodles. So people who aren't used to cooking regularly, I find, do struggle with veganism because it's hard to get good vegan convenience food. So that's the other thing. Second thing, the one that I can't really help people with is, having an Indian background, having a Caribbean background, and having a Ghanaian background. Like meat isn't really the center of our cuisines. It's just kind of food with meat in it. So like, Indian food is like the perfect example. I describe India as like the ground zero of meat-free cuisine. Like if you go to India, you will never need to eat. I mean, they worship cows, right? Why? We don't have to eat these. Like we don't eat them. We can just worship them. So like curries, dals, the flatbreads, just like everything, all of the foods, the samosas, the street food, the snacks, everything can be made just fantastically and tastily without meat protein. It's Meat is decoration in Indian cuisine. Ghanaian cuisine, we do like meat, but ultimately, once you take the meat out, it's like you're not really missing anything. So we have this like our main, I would say our national dish. We've got peanut soup and palm nut soup. You just take the meat out, put in mushrooms. It's the same thing actually. And in Caribbean food, like the first Rastas made veganism cool. We don't give Rastas enough credit for this. Rastas made veganism cool. And where did Rastas come from? The Caribbean. So, ackee, again, lots of stews, lots of soups, again, like rotis, big Indian influence in the Caribbean as well, because there's a huge Indian population. So when I stopped eating meat, like I was just I was a ready-made out the packet vegan. Because like my diet was already meat free. I just was adding meat for the sake of it. And once I got rid of it, or in my case, fish, once I got rid of the fish, it was like, oh, this is calm. Like it's easy.
So culturally, you were already kind of there, like 90% there.
Yeah, I think we think of veganism as a kind of a lifestyle choice, but that's a very like eat if we want to talk about it historically, like the eating of meat is like something that you used to do on Tuesdays, like on it was a special occasion, right? Like 100 years ago, if you ate meat, it was someone's birthday, and the fact that we eat a lot of meat, particularly in like developed countries, is like it's a position of privilege for us, I guess, and we've forgotten that. So there's like 75% of the world that doesn't have that, and so the food culture just is naturally not if you're not meat free, it's like meat minimal, just out of circumstance. And the other thing we forget is we eat a lot of meat because we, far, it's like it's all like fast raised chickens and like
Of course.
intensive farming, right? So we're eating an unnatural amount of meat because it's made in a natural way and it's made in unnatural quantities. And a lot of people in the world don't have access to that. This is a very Western thing. If you go to Ghana, you're eating the chicken that you saw in the street. Like the other day, like I went to Ghana when I was 18 and we saw this goat and I got far too friendly with this goat because I ate it the next day and I was devastated, right? But that was like a normal thing for people. And I was in a city, by the way. This was not village life. This is just what people did. Um, so I come from my natural inclination is I didn't know this by the way because I'm from London, but I guess my natural inclination, natural way of eating was for meat just to just be there and not be the center. And I think sometimes when we talk about veganism, we don't get in a helicopter and go all the way up and look down and really analyze and think at our whole approach to how we feed ourselves is influenced by capitalism and our society, and it doesn't actually make a lot of like natural sense. And once we get back to thinking about, well, how would it naturally make sense, you'll naturally reduce the meat consumption, if that makes sense.
Of course it does. And it's like that old story about asking the fish about how's the water today, and the fish go, water?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
there. It just surrounds you. It's natural. It's normal in our lives. It's just how we grow up. It's how we interact with the world long before we think about making choices. Long, long before.
Yeah, it's not natural to eat meat every day. Like I think that's a fair, but most people, well, people who eat meat do. And
Yeah.
the minute you say to them, well, this isn't natural, why it's not natural? Well, there are these factories that make chickens, and this is how the chickens are made. And in order to satisfy and satiate our appetite for it, we have to produce and raise animals in this way. And then once people really understand that, they're like, oh, okay. For example, like sometimes I mean, I do it more now because I don't eat meat, but I do kind of, you look at like, Kentucky Fried Chicken, or you must have the chicken shop in America, right? We have the chicken shop there. And then you'll see like a kind of a warming cabinet. And I'll look at that and I'll be like, there's 50 chickens in that cabinet, 50 dead, and then they'll be refilling that cabinet hourly, right? And that's one shop. And in the UK, you'll get like 10 shops in a street, right? And just when you actually think of the actual life and how many lives and how disposable and the quantity, that's when you really start to see it for what it is. It makes you feel a bit it gives you the ick. You're like, actually, I don't want to eat that anymore. That's really horrible. But we
Yeah.
very rarely look at it like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, like we're coming up on it will be over by the time this airs, but we're coming up on Super Bowl and a classic food choice for Super Bowl weekend are chicken wings. So if a grown man is eating, I don't know, 20 chicken wings,
10 chickens, yeah,
10
it's mad.
birds,
Like, and that's a snack.
It's
That's
like,
not even like,
yeah, he's not
that's just,
done eating.
and you're not even like, you know, I really want to be something clear. Like, I'm actually not against the eating and use of animals. I think that's really important because, especially now, we're talking a lot about Greenland and indigenous communities. There's like, animals have kept us thriving for, millennia. So I'm not, but there's this element. I remember this, the scene. What's that Daniel Day-Lewis movie where he falls in love with that Native American woman? He won an Oscar
Oh,
for it. And gives her that big speech in the cave, like, I'm going to find you. Doesn't matter how, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, whatever. He kills a bull in that movie and he's the story to the bull. And it's like, like there's this idea of I need this animal for clothing and food, but I'm grateful for its existence. No one's sitting down eating 20 chicken wings in a bucket, watching football, feeling grateful for the the multiple lives that have been given to be a wing in a bucket. And I think we've lost that connection. Like, even if you just feel grateful. When I ate fish, I used to be really conscious. I'd be like looking at my salmon going, oh man, I'm sorry, man. You're having a nice time in the Atlantic and I'm eating you. But I always had that awareness that I was eating something that was raised and killed for me. So I guess if we got back to that, you'd start to make a dent in people's morality. They would start to feel it because it is inconceivable the amount of life that goes into sustaining us, and it's not even good food. Oh my gosh, it's not even hot dogs. It's like, imagine if someone killed me in terms of hot dog, I'd be devastated. At least sushi me. Like, really take your time. Jerk me, put me in a barrel, season me. Make me crispy, give me texture. There's no texture in a hot dog. It's baby food, right? So it's just that, like, we've definitely lost that, and we could get it back if we talked about it more. Maybe, I don't know.
yeah. And sometimes talking about it brings the entire room to an uncomfortable, just comes right down. But I wanted to ask you because I don't know how long have you been someone making us laugh?
Oh, that's a great question. I guess for money, so I can give you a date. For money, it's been my full-time job since 2019.
Okay. All right.
But I would say generally, I've had this feedback about my ability to make people laugh for quite a long time, but I've only monetized it properly since 2019. I was doing it for free for years. Could you imagine? I should backdate society because they got a lot out of me for no money for a long time.
I saw
Yeah.
2019. I saw it was a TEDx talk, right? About fibs and lying.
Oh, I did that I did that last year.
Oh, that's a new one.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a new one.
one.
Yeah, I did it last year. Yeah.
Oh gosh, because I know you've written a book about history's greatest fibs, and you're going to have to correct me on the title because I didn't write it down in front of me if I said it wrong. But the idea that being funny, laughing, connecting with humor can have us, we can communicate about things that we normally might bring the room down to a discomfort or actual anger or feeling outraged or all those negative feelings that your mother tells you not to talk about certain subjects in public, right?
Yeah, massively. I think it's very important. Comedians don't forget that when you make someone laugh, they'll listen to you. And that means it's really easy to have a conversation with someone who disagrees with you if you could tell them a joke. And it's really easy to get across ideas. And the cool thing about jokes, I don't want to get too technical here, is that it relies on the comedian telling the joke and the audience member to have a shared point of view or shared point of reference or shared educational reference points. That makes sense. So if I tell you a joke, it only makes sense if you know what I know. If you don't know what I know, then the joke won't work. And so that means if you can find those shared points with the person who is listening to you, it's just a great way to maybe talk to people who disagree with you, maybe have them come round to your point of view. I don't want to say comedians are just walking around manipulating people. In fact, not enough of us do this really. But I think I've always prided myself on the fact that I intend and aim to play any room. I'm not really interested in performing to people who think like me, look like me, come from where I come from. You've got to come from anywhere, because what I say has to land everywhere. Otherwise, I'm not a comedian. I'm just a cult leader, right? Which I'm not interested in being, as lucrative as that job can be for people. So it's vital, and it's a big part of, I think, people coming together. Like I talk about veganism a little bit in my comedy, and it's just about getting people to see things they haven't seen before, and you can do that with comedy. So that's why it's just a great vessel for social change, I believe.
So, what spurred you on to start doing comedy for money? What about your self-image changed that you were like, you know what? I'm actually a professional comedian.
I genuinely started. This is a true story. I've told it on loads of podcasts. Because we have this thing in the UK called the Sunday Times Rich List, and it comes out every year, and the richest people in the UK are on this list. And one year, there were just loads of comedians on this list. So if you're on the rich list, you're earning. The rich list is about what you've earned that year, not how much you have. It's what you've earned that year. And these guys had earned millions, and I was like, none of these guys are funny, like at all. Like this is like them, like they're earning millions, and they've not made me laugh once. And I'm here coming to the office every day, and people, and everyone's cracking up, because of, and I'm not even trying, I'm not even trying. I'm just talking. So, and up to that point, people had said to me, "Oh, why don't you try comedy? Just like, why are you here in an office? Like, do something else with your intellect, I guess." And I guess stand up is a really good way to be a creative, because anyone can do it. You just walk into a bar and you start talking. So me being quite lazy, I thought, well, I'll do that. I'm not going to go to acting school because that feels like not great for an introvert. And I can't paint, or I'm not a very visual person. Poetry's not for me. So I generally thought, well, this kind of suits my personality, the amount of energy I'm willing to put into this endeavor, and also it fits around your day job as well, because you do it at night. And that was basically it. Yeah.
Okay, well, I have never heard comedy referred to as like simple, easy. I guess no lower barrier to entry, perhaps, but I can't imagine it is standing up in front of people is typically worse than death for the average human being, isn't it?
It is. And what you do is you do it over and over again until your ego becomes calloused. And then you think, oh, this is just what I do now. So you can put a number on it. I swear, 50 gigs. If you can get up, and in the UK, I'm sure you have this in various cities and towns in America, like an open mic circuit. Yeah. If you can stand up in front of people and do 5 minutes of material 50 times, by the 40th time it'll be like like water off a duck's back, and by the 50th time it'll just be clockwork.
Exposure therapy.
Exactly. And then it becomes a case of now you've got used to it. Can you lift up the bonnet and have a real look and really understand the craft? So it's not a question of if you automatically love it, you're probably not going to be a good comedian, because you'll be too extroverted and you think you deserve to be there. But if you work on overcoming that embarrassment and that shyness, and it is, it's not pleasant the first few times. But what is pleasant the first few times? Most things aren't. Most of the best things in life suck the first time. Your first pint of Guinness tastes terrible. Oh, it's the worst thing you'll ever taste, right? But and after a few pints, you're like, this is delicious. So
well, I guess that has a parallel with ordering vegan food in public. The first 50 times you do it, it's awkward, and you don't know if you're being told the truth, and you're communicating with apologies and like, I know it's kind of annoying, but can you check with them if there is anything without cheese? So it's probably the same thing. We just exposure therapy.
Well, this is something we spoke about just before the podcast started, because in the UK, it's pretty easy to buy vegan food. It's like I guess because everyone's kind of broke in the UK, so it like now they're just taking out the meat and just this is what we serve now. But it's actually not too hard, probably because what we have in UK and we don't celebrate this enough. I don't know why. We are so multicultural in the UK. If you ask most people in the UK what their favorite kind of food is, they will say Indian or Chinese, right? And they won't even think of it ironically. They'll be like, oh, Indian food. Like because most places you can go to the whitest part of the UK, like literally like everybody here is white English, and you go to the high street or the village, it'll be Chinese, Thai, Indian. Like it's like that's and it's just and they would have just found the Chinese family to open up a Chinese restaurant in the most whitest place in the UK. So the reason why I say this is because it's those kind of cuisines cater so well for vegans. So we naturally have a kind of a really good, I think, like restaurant culture for non-meat eaters because we have a lot of non-British cuisine in the UK, which is really easy to find.
Well, I have had that experience too, that it's very easy to find, but it's also, which is different. I mean, in this country too, you can go to the middle of Iowa and probably find a Chinese restaurant in the, downtown Iowa, but it hasn't flipped into all the other restaurants the same way. I feel like there's almost no restaurant you can go to in the UK, at least that I've been to, that doesn't have something or doesn't have an awareness. Oh yeah, what she wants is something with no meat or dairy in it. In this country, you can still go lots. I mean, it's a huge country. The U.S. is big and it's spread out, but there's a real awareness in the UK, almost anywhere, that they'll have something for vegans on the menu.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, I'm going to say lots of random things that don't sound to you, but we've always had it in our consciousness. So, for example, world's most famous vegetarian and vegan, Linda McCartney, right? So, British, married to one of our most famous celebrities. So we've always had like very famous kind of like totem poles for meat-free living, meat-free, whatever, meat-free living. So like even this is like in the 70s, she's launching her
Yes.
brand, right? So I think so. It's always kind of been there. I think also the thing we have in the UK is like we've always had like austerity cooking, right? Our culture is very post-war. It's like, oh, we don't have meat anymore, so we just substitute the meat for that. So we never labeled it like veganism or meat-free or vegetarianism or whatever. But it's just like you got to make do with what you have. So that's part of the food culture, particularly with British cuisine, like a hot pot, for example, dumplings. So when there was no meat, they would just make dumplings with flour, and then that became part of the culture. But we don't. How can I put this? We're just kind of Britain's very open-minded when it comes to food. It's very humble about its own food culture. British people will be like, our food's terrible. So then it's welcoming of other foods. British food actually isn't terrible. People have just forgotten how to make it, to be fair. But I think because everyone's like, oh, we hate British food, we're just really welcoming of other ways of eating to the point where we don't even call it meat free. Like anyone in the UK right now, if you gave them a chip butty, they would just be like, thank you. Like, because we love a chip butty. A chip butty is a vegan snack, right? For American listeners, a chip butty is a chip sandwich. I apologize so much for introducing you to the concept of a carb sandwich, but that's vegan, right? But we're not calling it like vegan food. We're just saying it's a chip butty. So we have so many examples of that. Tomato soup is like a big thing. When you're sick, you eat tomato soup. It's just, some people might say it's vegan, but we just be like, it's just tomato soup, man. You just eat it. So I think we're just open to other cuisines because we're a little bit embarrassed about our cuisine.
Well, somebody else has said that to me. Somebody, Day Radley, who was on the podcast a while back, she's a vegan, she runs a vegan cooking school, and she has the same feeling that the UK does not have an enormous attitude about its own cooking, about its own cuisine, and so they are much more open to things. And whereas that's not the United States' issue, but that places like France and can be a little bit more pushback.
God, so precious. I mean, I go to the continent a lot, and they're really precious about it because to the point where like in the EU now, you can't label processed vegan food. So if you get if you make like a vegan sausage, you can't call it a sausage anymore. You got to call it a vegan cylinder. I don't know what they're going to do I don't know what they're going to do to, how's your vegan hockey puck? Like I don't know how they're going to get around it. And because they're so precious about, this is not a hamburger. This is a hamburger with beef. I can't do accents, but so they're that's a different thing. So it's to our advantage as vegans to live in the UK, where the culture is so apologetic about its contributions to cuisine. It's happily absorbing of other ideas. Yeah.
And I think, I mean, to me, I think it's a compliment to UK consumers that they're not so confused that if they say peanut butter, you're going to think there's butter in it. And if you
tell me that's not true, please. Oh dear.
No, but that's the extreme example of why you can't call it, plant-based sausage, because nobody will know.
No, well, I'll tell you something else. So, and I've always fought against this. We have obviously the class system in this country for a long time. It still happens now. Veganism and meat-free living and wellness has been associated with being middle class or upper class, which I've always fought against, because where I come from, lentils, chickpeas, this is working class food. And it actually, not to get too political on it, but it actually is to our detriment, because people who have less money are being priced out of very healthy ways of eating, because all of a sudden now you want chickpeas, they double the price because it's become like premium food. And it's like this is poor people's food, or lentils and stuff. And they will take like a very cheap product which is like meat free, and they'll stick a kind of vegan label on it, and then they'll charge you more money for it, and they'll sell it as like a lifestyle choice. So that's one of the other reasons why this kind of cuisine has done really well in this country, because they branded it is like, middle class, upper class, wellness adjacent. But really it's like, oh, we ate dal because it was cheap. Like really, dal is not a middle class food, but you'll get lots of yoga loving people who live in expensive parts of London going, I'm having my dal for lunch. What are you talking about? This is what poor people eat for breakfast in in Guyana. So just fighting against that constant labeling of and it's capitalism trying to make money out of cheap things, right? So fighting against that is a really big part, I think, of my veganism. But it's also a big reason why veganism is taken off in this country, because it's been branded as this kind of like aspirational thing, which is like, it is aspirational, but not for those reasons, if that makes sense.
I agree. Well, this leads us to, in honor of the way I learned about you with Papercuts, it leads me to asking you about your take on a couple of articles that we'll see what we have time to talk about. So I don't want to keep you all day, but a couple of articles that discuss meat, vegan life, and this idea that you're saying it's very, it's aspirational, but is it? New York Magazine said basically, what was the title of it? Is vegan cooked?
Oh, I feel. Yeah, it's vegan cooked. Yeah, it's vegan life cooked. Yeah, I mean, it grew on me actually. It did grow on me, even though we can eat almonds too raw and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it grew on me. I thought
Rachel Sugar. Rachel Sugar was the author.
Yeah, what a great name.
Yeah.
So listen, I read that article, right, and I thought two things jumped out at me. First of all, the way that the disingenuous way in which the idea of veganism was being used to make money rather than just make everybody better, make the planet better, make us better. It was all about, it's not about veganism, it's just about getting people to spend money on something. Yeah. So that was the first thing. And I think that's the bubble that burst. And the second thing was there's a most amazing point made in that. About processed vegan meats. And the article was basically about, well, it used lots of examples. It was about how at one point about 10 years ago, we were all going to be vegans and we were all going to eat lab-grown meat. We were all going to eat fake meat that looked like meat, and we were all going to go eat at vegan restaurants. And the vegan restaurants all shut down, and all these companies that made fake meat or lab-grown meat haven't done what they were supposed to do. Okay. And there's this great quote in there, like, these processed vegan meat companies did not do what we thought they would do. And the quote is this: because the food does not taste like love. And I thought that's exactly what the issue. Nobody really wants to have an alternative to meat that is just like a cynical, like Lego, like we just put this together and this is meat. The alternative to meat is actually the alternative to the idea of meat, if that makes sense. So for example, the alternative to a roast chicken is actually it is actually a bowl of dal. You know what I mean? Like it's not a roast chicken I grew in a lab. You know, the alternative to like a hamburger isn't like a fake hamburger. You know, it's like a beautiful couscous salad with like red kidney beans and black eyed beans and a lovely dressing. You know, like that's it's like it's literally a taken apart of how you look at food and putting it back together again. And until like governments and society and business looks at veganism like that, I don't personally think people are going to buy into it. Because if you offer me as a meat, if I was a meat eater, a real chicken or a chicken that was grown in a petri dish, I'm sorry, man, I'm gonna go for the real chicken. You know, just so I thought that was really fascinating. But the second thing is like, whilst capitalism is our driver, this is never gonna take off because capitalism doesn't want us to be healthier. It doesn't want animals to have better welfare or to live more sensible and you know natural lives. It just wants to make money. And it does that by creating markets for things we do not need. Um, and that is why we don't need pretend meat. We need a little bit of it because sometimes I come in late from work and I need to put something in the oven. You know, we don't really need lab grown meat, you know, because that's more expensive to make than growing the actual chicken. But we just need to change our attitude to food. So who's going to do that? Is that going to make someone money? If you've got a
No.
chickpea farm, it's going to make you money. But you know,
I know that's so interesting because it is it and also when I read it, I was just thinking like does any of this matter? Is anything she's talking about really matter? Because it's all about like whether like the Kardashianification, it seems to me, of looking at everything. Does it get clicks on TikTok? Does it get, I don't even know if you get clicks on TikTok. I've never been on TikTok, but I know it exists. Do you get likes on Instagram for, I mean, I don't, it just seemed so not real. And we're talking about food and feeding people, nourishing people, not just trying to entertain them.
yeah, absolutely. And I think once startup culture got behind this veganism push, it was never really going to be effective. There's only one thing that's going to make people vegan, and that is them literally rewiring their brains and approaching food, nutrition, and lifestyle in a different way. In the UK, the biggest barrier to veganism is poverty. People need kitchens. We've got families that live in hotel rooms, right? Because the councils can't house them. They can't get social housing, kitchens to cook in. You go to like a poor high street, you know, you don't get shops where you can buy these kind of raw ingredients that you need to cook really well. Okra, aubergine, really good mushrooms, or whatever. It's all like oven chips and really unhealthy food or whatever. So again, like how could people feed themselves? We went through a few years in this country for about a decade of building massive out of town supermarkets that you need a car to get to. So in order to get fresh fruit, fresh food, fresh pulses, fresh grains, fresh rice in like large quantities, because that's the best way to buy things, you've got to have a car. And families, if you've got 3 kids, you know, I grew up in that kind of household, getting on a bus with all that shopping. So you shop local. When you shop local, you're buying less healthy food. Poverty is the biggest barrier to eating less meat because what can you buy on your high street? You can buy 20 wings for £5.
That's
You know,
right.
you can go buy, you know, you can buy such, because this meat is made so cheaply, you can feed your family on it. And so getting people to then go through the effort of making vegan food, which is actually then more time expensive, and then I have time because they're working. They've got to work so many hours in the Amazon warehouse, you know, or wherever they're working. So poverty is the biggest reason why we don't have more vegans in this country. If we could fix poverty, people would eat better, and eating better naturally has you eating less meat naturally.
Yeah. You know, I had a guest on the other day, Sherry Shrallo, who is in Chicago, and she started the Vegan Volunteer Corps to bring vegan food to homeless and unhoused families. Um, and they're so, and she said, nobody goes, ew. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's all homemade. It's all real veg, because they never, ever, ever get that when they're being fed by any other group.
Yeah, and nutrition wise, like it's great. Like if you take like I'll use an example as of meat, because I remember when I said I went to Ghana when I was 18, right? So up till then I'd only ever, I guess, eaten British chickens, right? Good old British chickens. Then I went to Ghana, and ate a chicken, right? And I got given this bowl of soup. We put big hunks of meat in our soup, and I ate this like I think it was a chicken leg. I nearly broke my teeth. The bones were so hard, right? This wasn't grown in some tiny cage with 20 other chickens, a 6-week broiler chicken that was just inflated and then slaughtered and killed. This had been raised, loved, fed well, slaughtered, and then cooked. And I didn't know that chicken bones weren't meant to be soft, so almost powdery, right? When we are giving people in need meat, we're not giving them good meat. We're giving them low nutrition kind of meat, and it's not very tasty. You only ever get good carrots, right? Like they're only ever good. There's no such thing as this one's for you and this is for the middle class people. So if you we've got this soup called provision soup in Guyana, and it's basically made of black eyed peas. That's the base, because if you boil black eyed peas, you get a lovely thick soup out of it, and you put like carrots, onions, garlic, and any vegetables you want. That's why it's called provision soup. You put your provisions in it, right? And it's like I can go and buy the most cheap, off-cut vegetables. I can get the cheapest cans of pulses or whatever, and it will always taste the same. It would always taste good. So just to say, like, you can never go wrong if you are feeding the queen or if you're feeding someone in need with vegetables. They'll get the quality of that is just so, we should celebrate that and try and do that all the time, because the queen ain't eating powdery bone chicken. No, we don't have a queen no more. Sorry, you can tell I'm a Republican because I forgot the queen died. The king is not eating, powdery bone chicken, right? Like they're eating some, chicken that got massaged and, went to a spa day, got its nails done and all sorts of. But, somebody in need is not eating that chicken. Whereas if everyone's just eating vegetables, no one's better than anyone else. It's a cabbage.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I guess you get organic cabbages and this kind, but generally speaking, it's a cabbage. And the equality of that is just, for me, I think that's so fantastic. And you want to do, if you were ever cooking anything for someone in need, cook vegan or vegetarian stuff. And that way you're going to be giving them high nutrition and you're giving them the exact same stuff you'd eat yourself, which is so important.
Yeah. No, and I 100% agree, but of course you knew I would. But there are people who don't agree, and that's the other article we looked at, which is from The Guardian, which I think you've been a contributor to. No?
Yeah. For my sins, I do like they let me share my opinions on The Guardian for some reason.
So The Guardian, where I just heard Boris Johnson refer to somebody as an intergalactic bedwetting lefty. I was like raising my hand. Perhaps that's me as well.
Can we just talk about ableism for a minute? Because I feel really strongly about how can he get away with saying this kind of nonsense, like bedwetting lefty? Who does he think he is? And I just think that, let's talk about, but I just like, incontinence is not a joke, for example. And just he's saying, if you like people and have empathy and are kind, you wet the bed.
Yeah.
It's just like that shouldn't make print, right? Like it shouldn't. So we're living in a really weird world. It's always been a world in which some people can express themselves and some people can't. But now it's more so, and I'm just staggered every day. Intergalactic. It doesn't even make any sense. Intergalactic.
I know he is an example, and it is partially why I enjoyed listening to Papercuts a couple of years ago, because it was a distraction from that kind of talk that was going on in my own country. And it was just like, if I listen to it about my own country, my blood pressure will just go through the roof. But it's a little more enjoyable when it's somebody else.
Well, look, we are watching and listening to it's Robert Kennedy, isn't it?
Robert Kennedy.
Yeah. What happened to the Kennedys? Like, what kind of generational curse was put onto that family? I just don't understand what is going. So yeah, what is his health? We would call him a health minister, I think.
Yeah,
right?
basically that's what it. Yep.
Every day there's just like he's like, but he's a TikTok health minister. He just makes it up. And this in this particular article, I think they've put it in these words. They've inverted the food pyramid, so now it's meat at the top of it, and this is just completely made up. We caught the other day the whole thing about how America's going to stop the war on protein, which is new, because obviously there's been a war on protein
Yes.
that we've been fighting for a very long time.
It's like the war against Christmas.
Yeah, this is the
Nobody
reason why.
had Christmas for years until they brought that back.
Can't afford your healthcare bills? Well, you're not eating enough protein. If you ate more protein, then maybe that treatment would cost you a little less, or whatever. All roads lead back to I own shares in something. So he probably owns shares in cow or whatever, like some kind of thing.
Big cow.
Yeah, I own 10 shares of that, bits of that cow. So we all know he's doing this because it's making somebody richer and he's getting a piece of that pie. I all I can say right now is this: if this has an American audience, don't eat more meat. I'm not going to say eat less meat, because you have to eat the meat that you want to eat. Don't eat more meat. If there's one thing every person in America does not need to do, it is eat more meat. You are at peak meat consumption.
Apparently we are.
Yeah, like when chickens saw that article and was like, oh, for fuck's sake, excuse my language, not my cousins too, like you're eating. We thought they're like, we have no more extended family for you guys to eat. Like the intensive farming that is being done right now to satiate the appetite for American meat is beyond comprehension. And it does. No American needs to eat more meat at all. It's just not. And if Americans did eat more meat, I can't imagine what the consequences would be. Like, it just.
That's one of the things in the article. 25% increase would require 100 million acres of agricultural land dedicated to livestock.
And it's just
100 million acres.
If you want your country to smell of methane, good for you. Like you can't light the smoking might stop because you can't light a cigarette. Place explode.
Oh no, not here. We need to do that maybe in Brazil, right?
It would be imported. It would be imported meat. That's right. So we just cut down more rainforest. We don't need more rainforest. We need another patty in a Big Mac. That's what we need.
Get it.
Yeah, of course it wouldn't. That's right. It wouldn't be American. It would be some precious bit of place of natural beauty that would be cut down so people could have more beef burgers. And this goes back to what I said before. It's not even to make nice food, it's to make more beef patties to stick in some fast food or whatever. I do think it's got to the point where this information, or we'll call it misinformation because it is. It's got to the point where people don't believe it. Oh, you can tell me this actually. Like, I don't think people believe this. I don't. I think some do, but I think en masse people are just letting it go, and like we're so numb to the misinformation that people are just like, okay, he said this, fine. It's all about funneling money to people, and about this idea of wokeness has been defined for them, and they've put meat eating in the non-woke section, so they're just going to talk about it because they've decided it's anti-woke to eat meat. And so they're going to push that agenda, and I think it's probably at the point now where people just won't be convinced by it anymore.
I have no idea. I do agree a lot of people are numb, and I do agree it is part of the tactic to, the fire hose of shit that they talk about. It just comes at you. You don't know what to point at and go, wait, that doesn't work. That's not okay. We don't want that. You just comes at you every day is another thing.
It's really interesting the way they're committed to making, not just Americanized, because we all get this information, right? So like when they're anti-vaxxers, for example, it's kind of like we get this information. So there's people here going, oh, maybe, he's a Kennedy, maybe we shouldn't, maybe we're better off getting measles, this stuff does land. But I do think it's landing less because it's getting so ludicrous. You're sat watching the Super Bowl, right? You've got a bucket, and that bucket has 20 pieces of chicken in it. Okay, so that's 10 chickens, and someone's saying to you, eat more meat. You're going, oh, dude, come on. Even your stomach is going, don't you dare. You're Your stomach is going, listen, mate, don't you dare put any more chicken in. Otherwise, we're going to miss the Super Bowl because we're on the toilet, right? So if you want to watch this match, eat this much meat and then enjoy the game. If you want indigestion, you're going to listen to that guy. You do not want indigestion right now. You know, it's just at that point because I've traveled to America. I went to America. This is a funny story. I went to America. Yes, this is quite a while ago when I was running a lot, and I ran 5 kilometers in the Florida heat every day. Okay, because I thought I'm going to be in the Florida heat, humidity, great training. I came home. I'm not lying. 1 stone heavier.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I wasn't like gorging. I was like, but I did eat out a lot. So basically 2 meals a day were eaten out in like restaurants because and I wasn't, but that's how different my diet was in America compared to my diet in the UK. So and obviously I'm in holiday, so I'm indulging, but every day 5 kilometers, right? So what hope do you have if you live like a normal life? And obviously you're probably not eating out like, you know, every day or whatever. So, but if you're just getting up, going to work, coming home, getting up, maybe go to gym a couple of times or whatever, like these people are killing you, right? They are. I don't use those words lightly. When he says don't take these vaccinations, when he says, you know, just eat meat, and maybe like 1 leaf, you know, when he's giving you all this advice, it is not to lengthen lives, right? Because there is no scholarship out there that supports this. When Trump says paracetamol gives kids autism, right? That's not because he wants pregnant women to have uncomplicated pregnancies, right? I don't even know why he's saying it. I can't think who that would be advantageous to. These messages are designed to shorten lives because there is no scholarship to support it, like at all. There's no scholarship. There's no academic that writes a peer-reviewed paper that comes to these conclusions, okay? So that's scary. Yeah. It's terrifying because, and then I think, and you're right, it's that shit hose because it's like, well, how do you combat it? How do you stop it? How do you push? Like with us now, we're trying to like get our European leaders to just tell Trump to kind of just, in British terms, do one. Just do one. And we're crying out for it. It's all lies. It's all misinformation. It's all incorrect. Just call it what it is now. Just call it what it is. And we're not doing that. And I don't know. I hope the message is not landing. I hope it's not landing.
Well, I do think it's designed not to help anybody's health, even in some strange, you know, alternate reality. I think it is just designed for all of us to just not be on the same page anymore, just to like rethink like all the things that we thought we had created and learned in science over the last 50 years or since the Second World War. It's just like all up for grabs again. It's just like, how do we just make everybody not on the same page?
We used to live in societies which were really feudal, in which there was like a minority that kind of like they lived in like palaces, I don't know, just big houses, and they lived till 90, and then you had everyone else and their life expectancy was till 40, and that's basically the direction of travel, not just in the UK, not just in America, but in the UK too. And it's really about getting people to understand, like, you know, it's the Michael Jackson cliche, something like they don't care about us. Yeah, like, but we care about us. So how can we educate ourselves? So when we get these messages, we go, oh no, do you know what? I know you're saying ground beef is, you know, is something I should eat every day, but I'm going to have a bit of spinach with that. Because, I mean, the science says it, right? Processed meat is a carcinogen. There is a direct link, and it is not a correlation. It is a link between excessive consumption of processed meat and certain cancers. You can go on to, you know, anybody can fact check this, and they will find that I'm correct to say it is a fact. Processed meat is a carcinogen, and if you eat too much of it, you are increasing your risk of getting certain kinds of cancer. And the way to counter that is fiber. Really simple. So when you have eat processed meat in a balanced way, but eat as much fiber as you like. Fiber is basically vegetables, fruit and vegetables. Like, that's a really basic message, right? There's no reason there should be like a world parliament. There should be one government, because humans are made out of the same stuff. So we only need one department for the planet. We don't need 300 different health departments. It's just the one. If everyone just ate a little less processed meat and a little more fruit and vegetables, that would fix like most of the planetary issues that we have. It would help with obesity, other health problems, certain cancers. So it just always puzzles me that somebody like RFK, we'll call him, just we shorten his name so much all the time in the UK now. RFK just says this stuff like it should be like impossible for him to say this because we know it's not true. Like we know it's nonsense.
Yeah. Well, welcome, welcome to our world. It is, and Athena, I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking, even the most dyed-in-the-wool anti-vegan would listen to you and would smile and would it would get in, right? It would your what you're saying would drip in, and they couldn't really take you to task. And I think that is the beauty of humor and your particular brand of politically aware humor that we should all be taking advantage of. So, Athena, where can people see you? What are you going to be doing in the next few months? I know you've had a lot of podcast exposure. You have a children's book or two. You're out there all the time working.
I'm constantly working. So the best thing to do is to visit my website, athenakugblenu.co.uk. And what I'm going to do after we finish recording is update it. Oh, I'm going to put all my dates in it. I'm doing a book tour, not with my books actually, but with another book that I'm helping to promote. But I'll be flogging my book too, but it's UK only at this moment in time. What I can say, my children's books aren't available in America right now, which is crazy. Could you imagine? And I'll be honest with you, if the American immigration authorities were to go through my social media timelines, it probably will never be available in America. I don't think I'll be available in America, but it is available. I don't personally shop in Amazon, but I can say you can buy my book from Amazon, and I would suggest that it's not the best company, but it is good for things like that. But my books are called History's Most Epic Fails and History's Most Epic Fibs, and I do perform a lot in the UK. If you're listening in the UK, and I'll update my website, I promise.
That's great. I'm going to have the link, Athena Kugblenu. .co.uk, and it'll be written out. There'll be a hyperlink in the episode notes in case you don't know how to spell that off the top of your head. And Athena, thank you so much for making time. I fangirled out about you. I'm delighted you took this time to be with us, and I really appreciate it.
It's been so fun. I could have recorded this for like 3 hours. So it's a good thing you stopped because we all got things to do. Thank you for having me.
Well, maybe you'll come back on when you have something specific you'd like to talk about or rant about. We're always open for a rant. And about 8 to 10% of the listeners are UK and Ireland.
So. Amazing. I'll see you guys at a show.
Thank you, Athena. So what did you think? What did you think about Athena? I think that what Athena Kugblenu does so well is to refuse these false choices we're constantly handed in the media. Either laugh or care, either live your life or pay attention, either veganism is the future or it's over. That's clickable, right? I'm always being told that I need to do things that are more clickable, clickbait in my work. But anyway, one of the things that really stayed with me from the conversation we just had was her reminder that the biggest barriers to eating more plants, it's not moral failure or lack of information. It's really structural. Time, kitchens, poverty, access. That reframing matters, maybe now more than ever. It takes this out of a realm of personal virtue and puts making plant-based choices back where it could really do the most good in culture, in our policies, in our systems. I also loved Athena's point that the alternative to meat isn't fake meat. It might be a completely different way of thinking about food, and that works for me. A bowl of dal instead of a lab-grown chicken breast, or chickpeas in the curry instead of trying to replicate something we've been told that we need. And of course, there's comedy. Thank goodness there's still comedy. Athena reminded us why humor matters so much right now. When people laugh, they also are listening. And when they're listening, they're open. Sometimes just open enough to see something that we hadn't seen before.
So here's your very gentle listener challenge this week. I know most of us can't take too much more. Notice when the news or the culture tries to force you into an either-or story about food, about politics, about who you're allowed to be and how you're allowed to do it. And let's see if we can hold a little more nuance than the headlines suggest. Now, there are some things I don't think there are any two ways of looking at. But let's make sure that we're doing that thoughtfully. And if you want to learn more about Athena, find her work or see where she's performing, I will link to her website, athenakugblenu.co.uk, and her books in the show notes. Thank you, my veggie besties, as always, for being here, for listening, for thinking about compassion and how we demonstrate that in the real world, and for staying human in these really quite inhuman feeling times. I know with all the things that are out there for us to do right now, like save democracy, it can seem like being vegan or plant-based it's not a huge priority. But I would love to know what you are thinking anytime and how we can support each other as you veg your best.
Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.